Mom is acting weird, like a tablet when the battery is low. Maybe we should plug her in. That's what 7-year-old Mark told his exhausted mother last Tuesday. And honestly, the kid might be onto something. Because while we parents are over here thinking we're hiding our stress like emotional ninjas, our children are reading us like we're giant billboards with flashing neon signs that say, "Parent in crisis mode." Here's what most of us don't realize. According to research from Dr. Edward Tronick at the University of Massachusetts, infants as young as 3 months old can detect changes in their caregiver's emotional states and will actively try to re-engage a distressed parent. 3 months. They're basically tiny emotional detectives before they can even sit up on their own. And it only gets more sophisticated from there. A study published in the Journal of Family Psychology found that children are remarkably accurate at perceiving parental stress, often more accurate than parents realize. They might not understand words like quarterly reports or mortgage payments, but they absolutely notice when dad's jaw is clenched or when mom's voice gets that particular tight quality that means someone is barely holding it together. They just describe it differently, like 8-year-old Anthony, who observed, "Dad is always angry when the phone rings at night. Why doesn't he just turn it off then?" What's fascinating is how children respond to our stress. Research from Dr. Megan McClelland at Oregon State University shows that even young children demonstrate surprisingly sophisticated emotional regulation strategies when they sense a parent is struggling. Sometimes they offer comfort, like 10-year-old Lucas saying, "Mom, come here for a second. You need a hug." Sometimes they try to problem solve, like 8-year-old Jenny suggesting, "We don't have to stress. We can clean the room tomorrow, right?" And sometimes they deploy humor, whether they mean to or not. Like 11-year-old Carly warning, "Mom, don't be like that. If you get angry, you'll get wrinkles." Today, we're diving into what happens when kids become our accidental stress coaches, what the research says about children's emotional attunement, and why their hilariously honest observations might actually teach us something important about managing stress in family life. If you want science-backed parenting insights delivered with a side of reality and humor, hit that subscribe button now, because we're about to get real about parental stress through the eyes of the tiny humans who see right through us anyway. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your child's brain when they notice you're stressed. According to research by Dr. Ruth Feldman at Bar Island University, children and parents engage in what's called physiological synchrony. This means that when you're stressed, your child's stress hormones can actually rise in response to yours. Their little bodies are literally tuning into your emotional frequency, like they're connected by invisible Wi-Fi. Which explains why 6-year-old Michael asked his dad, "What's going on? Do you also have a math test at work tomorrow?" The kid was feeling the stress. He just couldn't quite identify the source. But here's where it gets really interesting. A study published in Developmental Psychology found that children don't just passively absorb our stress. They actively try to make sense of it using the cognitive tools they have available. And since most kids under 10 haven't mastered abstract thinking yet, they use concrete, often hilariously literal interpretations. This is why 6-year-old Carl concluded, "I don't really know what being stressed means. I think it's something adults have because they never draw pictures." I mean, he's not entirely wrong. When was the last time you took a crayon break? Research from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence shows that children as young as 4 can recognize complex emotions in others and will attempt to regulate those emotions through various strategies. Sometimes it's distraction, like 8-year-old Sophie offering, "Dad, if you're feeling stress and anxiety, you can play with me whenever you want." Sometimes it's practical problem solving. And sometimes, like 7-year-old Sarah, they deploy the universal cure-all. "My aunt told me she's stressed. I don't really know what that means, but I'm bringing her a cake." Now, here's the part that might make you feel a tiny bit guilty. Studies show that children who are repeatedly exposed to high parental stress without explanation or resolution can develop what researchers call hypervigilance to emotional cues. Basically, they become so attuned to our moods that they start monitoring us constantly, trying to predict and prevent our stress. That's not a role we want them in. They're kids. not our emotional support animals. But before you spiral into parental guilt, there's good news. Research from the University of California shows that parents who acknowledge their stress simply and age appropriately actually help their children develop better emotional intelligence and coping skills. You don't need to hide every moment of stress or pretend you're a Zen master. You just need to name it. Studies found that children whose parents said things like, "I'm feeling frustrated right now, but I'm going to take some deep breaths and I'll be okay," showed better stress management skills themselves later on. Let's get practical about what this actually looks like in real life. Because science is great, but we need strategies we can use at 3 p.m. when we're losing our minds. Dr. John Gottman, whose research on family emotional dynamics has basically defined the field, found that parents who practice what he calls emotion coaching raise children with better emotional regulation, stronger social skills, and even better physical health. And emotion coaching during your own stress is surprisingly simple. First, acknowledge what's happening. You don't need a dissertation. Research shows that even a simple statement like "Mom is feeling really overwhelmed right now" gives children crucial information. It tells them that what they're sensing is real, that emotions have names, and that adults experience them too. When we pretend everything is fine while radiating stress signals, we teach kids that their perceptions can't be trusted. That's confusing for their developing brains. Second, and this is backed by studies from the University of Minnesota, reassure them it's not their fault and it will pass. Children's natural egocentrism means they often assume they caused whatever is happening. A simple, "This isn't about you and I'm going to be okay," does wonders. It's basically what 10-year-old Lucas was trying to offer in reverse when he said, "Mom, come here. You need a hug." He was attempting to fix it because kids often think they're supposed to. Third, model basic coping strategies. Research published in Child Development shows that children learn emotional regulation primarily through observation. When you say, "I'm going to take 5 minutes to calm down," and then actually do it, you're teaching them more about stress management than 100 lectures ever could. And honestly, sometimes what you need is exactly what 8-year-old Sophie suggested. Play for a few minutes. Studies show that brief periods of playful interaction can actually reset your stress response. Here's something that might surprise you. Research from Stanford University found that moderate exposure to parental stress, when handled well, actually builds resilience in children. They learn that stress is normal, manageable, and temporary. The key phrase is "when handled well," which means acknowledging it, managing it appropriately, and not using children as therapists or dumping grounds for adult problems. And let's address the elephant in the room that 11-year-old Carly so diplomatically pointed out. Mom, don't be like that. If you get angry, you'll get wrinkles. While her dermatological concerns might be misplaced, she's picking up on something important. Research shows that chronic, unmanaged parental stress does affect our health, and kids notice the physical manifestations. They see the tension in our faces, the tiredness in our eyes, the shortness in our responses. So, what do we actually do with all this information? Here's what the research tells us about creating a family environment where stress is acknowledged, but not overwhelming, where kids can be kids instead of tiny therapists, and where we can be real humans instead of pretending to be perfect parenting robots. Dr. Lisa DeMoore, a clinical psychologist who specializes in adolescent development, points out that our goal isn't to eliminate stress from our children's awareness. That's impossible and actually counterproductive. Studies show that children who grow up in environments where emotions are hidden or denied struggle more with their own emotional regulation later. Instead, our goal is to demonstrate healthy stress management while maintaining our role as the stable adults in the room. This means we can absolutely say, "I'm having a tough day and I need a few minutes alone." Research from the American Psychological Association shows that children benefit from seeing parents set boundaries around their own emotional needs. It models self-care and teaches that taking space to regulate emotions is healthy and normal. Just like 8-year-old Jenny's solution, we don't have to stress. We can clean the room tomorrow, right? Sometimes the kid has a point. Sometimes the room really can wait. Here's the beautiful part that research consistently supports. When we're authentic about our struggles while still maintaining our role as the grown-up, we give our children permission to be imperfect too. A study from the University of Texas found that children of parents who acknowledged their own emotions and modeled recovery showed less anxiety and more emotional flexibility. They learned that difficult feelings come and go, that you can have a hard moment and still be fundamentally okay. And let's be honest, sometimes our kids' interpretations of our stress are exactly the perspective shift we need. When 7-year-old Mark compared his mom to a tablet with low battery, he wasn't wrong. We do need to recharge. We do run out of energy. And maybe, just maybe, we should take his advice more literally and actually plug ourselves in, whether that means sleep, a walk, therapy, or yes, even cake, like Sarah suggested. The research is clear. Perfect, never stressed parents don't exist. And even if they did, they wouldn't be ideal. What children need are parents who are real, who acknowledge their humanness, who model healthy coping, and who still show up as the safe, stable presence in their lives, even on the days when we're running on low battery. If this video reminded you that being a real parent is better than being a perfect one, subscribe to the Parenting Blueprint for more research-backed reality checks about family life. And the next time your kid offers you unsolicited stress management advice, maybe actually listen. They might be small, but they're surprisingly wise.